Hi and welcome to Craftiosity, the subscription box of modern craft kits. This month we're working with lino cutting to make a printed tea towel. Here we've got a template and tracing paper, 100% cotton tea towel, 2 lino blocks, a lino cutting handle and blade and 2 ink pads. Start with your template and your tracing paper and draw around the template using a pencil. Once you've done this, bring in your lino blocks. Turn your tracing paper over so the original pencil marks are face down and then draw around them again. This will transfer them onto the lino blocks. Now we're about to start cutting, and lino cutting blades are very sharp, so just be careful when using them. To put the blade into the handle, unscrew the very top of the handle and you'll see there's a half moon shape, and there's also a half moon shape on the bottom of your blade. Place the blade into the handle, just be careful not to touch the sharp edge. Bring it in firmly and then screw the red top in to make it secure. So hold the lino cutter as you would a pencil, always cut away from you. And to keep the lino block in place, hold it with your non-cutting hand and make sure your hand is behind and away from where the blade is cutting. Do some test cuts on an unused edge of the block to get a feel for how the lino cuts. If you're cutting a circular or curved piece, do this in sections. Anywhere the lino remains will pick up ink. This outer hexagon is a guide for the area we want to keep, so cut away the lines of lino either side of it. To get nice neat corners, when you finish cutting one line, cut your next line across the end and you'll get neat edges. It's easier to do shallow cuts. If you go too deep, your blade can get stuck. I'm just going to repeat the pattern of the hexagon here, cutting away the lino in the same shape right into the centre. So for our design, the centre hexagon is whole with the in-between cut away. Cut away some extra lino around the outside of your piece, then use a pair of scissors to cut out the final piece. With the flowers, the petals will be largely uncut with the stamen's petal texture and central circle cut out. In case you accidentally overcut a line, we recommend working from the inside edge out towards the open space where the lino will be cut away anyway. Once these have been cut, cut away the lino that joins petals to the inside circle. We initially focused on using the right hand side of the cutting tool to cut the bottom of the petal edges, then used the left edge of the tool to get a nice even line on the inner circle edge. To cut out the tiny circles of the flower stamens, put gentle pressure downwards on the centre of a drawn circle and then carefully rotate the block in place. Make sure you don't apply too much pressure and that your fingers aren't in the path of the blade. Once the little circles are cut out, use the tool to cut simple lines down from them in towards the centre to create the flower stamens. Now use a tool to cut out the little lines of texture at the top of the petals. Finally, before we use the scissors to cut out the flower, cut away any leftover pieces of lino around the top of the petals. Use your scissors to cut out the flower. Then give both blocks a good clean and soapy water to remove the pencil marks and any oil from your hands. You've 2 ink pads inside your kit. We've chosen the blue one for the hexagon and the orange for the flower, but feel free to improvise. So take the first ink pad, turn it upside down and dab it all over the hexagon block until it's fully coated. Do your first print on a piece of scrap paper to see how it looks. Turn the block over and press it down with your fingers to get even pressure all over. Lift it back up. If there's any lines you don't like, now's the time to remove them. Here we'll keep the little lines inside the hexagon, we like those, but remove the extra on the right hand side point. So I'm just using the cutter here to remove any extra lino from the block. Now I'll do the same with the flower print. And I'm just going to remove some of the extra pieces between the tops of the petals. Make sure you wash and iron out your tea towel before you start printing on it. So decide what kind of pattern you're going to create with your blocks on the tea towel. Now here we're going for a repeating pattern with the hexagons and a 4-3-4-3 arrangement, but you can make your own pattern or freestyle. When you're printing, just make sure your hands are clean so you don't get any accidental ink onto the tea towel. So to print, ink your first block, and you'll ink your blocks before you print them every time. Carefully place your block ink side down onto your tea towel. Without moving the block, apply pressure down to press the ink into the tea towel. carefully lift the block straight back up again to reveal your print. Repeat your print across the tea towel in your first colour. Let it dry so it's no longer tacky, it shouldn't take too long, and then apply your second colour. So now we're inking up our flower in the orange ink, and then for this design we're placing the flowers in the gaps between the hexagons. Repeat this across your tea towel until your design is complete. Then let your ink dry completely overnight before heat setting. Okay, so now to heat set, all you need to do is heat your iron to the cotton or 3 dots temperature, place an old tea towel or cloth on top of your printed tea towel and iron for at least 15 seconds on each section. Keep the iron moving though. Once you've heat set it, wash your tea towel and dry it again before using. Well done, your tea towel is complete. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, head on over to our website at www.craftiosity.co.uk to sign up to our newsletter.